Welcome to another long play video. I actually just started to record one before this against the opponent I'm playing here, but I had it on mute for the first 10 minutes. Typical Simon thing to do there. So I'm playing this guy. He seemed to play very well in the last game. I resigned early so I could record another video, being a bit short of time. Well, that was my excuse anyway. And the idea of this is we're going to get into the thoughts of what I'm basically of a grandmaster when I'm playing. Now the ratings doesn't really matter. I did actually make this video the road to 2,500, but so many people seem to be so underrated, and of course I've faced numerous cheats on this, so that may be a little bit tricky, but that doesn't steer away from the main point. And the main point of this, forget about the ratings, I'm going to tell you how I think as a grandmaster. So how do I think as a grandmaster? And I'm going to do that with a longer time limit by playing against a strong opponent here, and you can try to get into my mind. So, well, first of all, I nearly always start with d4. It's my main move. My opponent's gone knight to f6. I do play the London system, but recently I've been playing c4 here, and now my opponent's played c5, which is a sharp variation. And against this, the most principled move is d5, and this has been my main move. I get space in the center, we get an interesting position, but this does give my opponent a number of should we say equally interesting ways to play. This setup of blacks of knight f6 and c5 is probably one of the most aggressive setups that black can go for. Now my opponent's gone e6 here, and this is now transposing into what we call the modern Benoni. I think it was John Nunn who talked about this. John Nunn played the modern Benoni, and he basically summed it up, I think, quite well. He said, look, I don't think the modern Benoni is a particularly great opening. Positionally, it's bad for black, but tactically, black gets numerous dangerous possibilities. And I think that sums it up very, very well. That, you know, positionally white should be better because I've got this fantastic pawn on e4, but strategically, tactically, black gets a lot of chances when he places his bishop on this long diagonal. Now I'm actually, while I've been talking, I'm trying to remember a variation, and this is main line, that my good friend Torbjorn Hansen just told me about in Iceland. Torbjorn Hansen is a grandmaster who I've known for a long time, who was actually Magnus Carlsen's first coach, and I believe he was telling me about a line, I can't remember the theory, where you go f4 and e5 quickly, and it's a very interesting way to play against this opening. Now bishop b5 check is one of the main moves. Now I can't remember the main theory here, so hopefully I'm going to remember it as it goes along, but Torbjorn did say, and he had a lot of belief, that there was some line with f4 and e5 that is very underrated. So I'm going to try to remember this, and obviously this is a key critical test because I'm trying to strike in the center when my opponent has not castled yet. So let's have a look. So let's go for this. So I'm going to go e5 here, and this is opening up the center immediately. I'm going to be gaining a very interesting position here. Now I think the main move is pawn takes pawn, but it might be knight d7. Now knight d7, yeah, okay, this is now getting a bit more familiar, and I'm just again trying to remember what Torbjorn spoke to me about here. Now was it knight to e4 here or knight to b5? It might be one of these moves. I probably shouldn't be playing such a sharp line without knowing the theory, you know, intensely, but we're going to get a very interesting tactical battle here. Well, let's rule out some possibilities. Taking on d6 looks stupid because my opponent will castle and get a rook to the e file straight away. My pawn on d6 doesn't look good. e6, interesting, takes, but then he moves his knight back, and e6 is looking very weak. I mean, it does look like knight to e4 or knight to b5 is the key move. When my opponent will take here, I'll go check, and then king e7, I'll take here. And that is sort of, I'm remembering the pattern. Remember, he probably only told me this down the pub when we were having a pint about 10 o'clock in the evening, so not easy to remember the theory, but that rings a bell, so I'm going to go for that. I'm going to go for either knight here or knight here. Is there any difference where I move the knight? It doesn't seem like there should be, should there? I still got the same idea of taking or coming into this square. Doesn't seem like it'll make a difference. Let's put it in the center. Why not? And you can see I'm spending a lot of time here, which could come and bite me a little bit later on. But this is a very interesting way to play against the Benoni. I hope I remember his novelty, or what Torbjorn was teaching me. Now, some things to bear in mind here. Can my opponent? I mean, can my opponent even castle there and give up the pawn? Well, no. This has to be critical. This has to be the critical move, and I'm sure this is still main line. So now I have to be a bit careful. If I take back on e5, he's just going to go knight takes e5. My position crumbles. The only way to make sense of my opening here is to go knight d6 check. Any other move makes no sense. This move forces his king to go to a bad square, and he won't be able to castle now. So king to the e7, and this is still theory. Black is a pawn up. I haven't got great development, but this is ringing more of a bell now. And here my knight is on pre, and it looks to me like it makes sense to take on c8, and I'm still trying to remember what I'm going to do after this. Okay, but I'm sure this is the position we looked at when we came to the conclusion that white has very good compensation, and this line is theoretically thought to be good for black, or at least equal for black. But I do feeling that there's some, this is well worth looking at and a way to try to destroy the Benoni. There's been some recent developments in this. And okay, so now this is the key position where I need to try to remember my theory here. So generally, if I can get my pieces into the game quickly, he's going to be a little bit in trouble here. Now, was it? I think it was an f5 move that Torbjorn was mentioning. This was the move that he said is an important novelty. And again, these sharp positions, if you're going to play sharp openings, you need to do more theoretical exercises. But I'm pretty sure that Torbjorn said knight to f3 first, and then after the main move rook to e8, you then play f5. And that was his new idea. And he reckoned that white has fantastic compensation for the sacrifice pawn there. I mean, it does look on the surface here quite good for me. Okay, my opponent's now decided not to do that. He's taken on f4, and that, I'm assuming, should be okay for me because another piece can come into the game quickly. Just wondering if the problem with playing d6 check here. Yes, I misplaced my opponent's king, but I do allow his knight the c6 square and then the lovely d4 square. So okay, so let's have a think. Bishop takes here, rook to e8. Something like this, then something like bishop e2, king f8, castles, and I have lots of ideas of knight g5 there. I mean, d6 check, the benefit of playing d6 check now is that if he moves his king back, his rook won't be able to enter the game. So it's a trade-off. Do I play d6? Do I avoid d6? And d6 is seeming also quite natural. I'm not worried about him taking on b2. Look, if he takes on b2, I'm going to have a computer alert going on in my mind there. That just seems not the right thing to do in this position. I mean, okay, queen e2 check will win the bishop anyway. So, okay, let's have a think. Bishop takes or d6. Which am I going to go for? Well, let's have a look. D6 check, king f8, bishop takes here. I don't know. I mean, that seems all right. But bishop takes, rook e8, bishop e2, king f8, castles. Then he has something like knight to e5, and I can take everything on e5, continue with some kind of initiative. His king's still weak here. It was a really tricky one. I don't know if I should play d6 or bishop takes f4. Really hard one to know. d6 is maybe now, I'm thinking d6 is going to be more natural. But okay, let's have a look. d6 takes, bishop takes here, bishop takes here. And then can I just offer the rook with something like bishop e2, and if he takes there, I get all the dark. Okay, I'm going to go d6 because, okay, my theory is, yes, I allow his knight into the game, but I stop his rook coming into the game. So this is sort of This is the trade-off. His rook can't get into the game, but his knight can, and I'm thinking his king is going to be, you know, my plan here is quick development. So I'm going to take here. Yeah, I'll do this straight away. And my idea now is also my bishop might have a better square. When he was going to go rook to e8 in the last line, I had to play bishop to e2. But in this variation, my bishop has a better square. And my main plan of attack is bishop c4, castles kingside. Now he has taken there, which I find a very unhuman-like move, grabbing a pawn there. You know, I mean, okay, maybe it's okay, but it's certainly not what I would be considering if I was in his position. Now, bishop c4, I'm not worried about him taking here because queen takes and I get a lovely diagonal. Bishop c4, knight to b6 is the only move I'd be worried about. Now, in that position, do I have some craziness of bishop takes f7? Bishop takes f7. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I just want to get my bishop out on castles. This is key. And bishop c4 is the most active square, but knight b6 does seem to allow his pieces to free up, and his queen can come in then. So maybe c4 is not the best square for this. I mean, I could also try to start an immediate attack with knight here, but again, I'm not sure about that one either. Is it right just to try to get castled first before I do anything? Bishop e2. I really want to play bishop c4. Let's have a look at that. Knight b6. Bishop takes here. We've even got queen f5 there. I don't want to allow his queen in. I need to get my king castled and my rook to the f-file. I'm just going to play instinctively. I'm going to play instinctively. My bishop, I'm just trying to get castled. I want to complete my development before I go for these attacks. I could have considered knight g5 there going for the attack. I could have considered this going for the attack. But instinctively it feels like in order to get an attack to work, I need to have full cooperation between all of my pieces. Now, that's an interesting move. Now, I even have some tactic with check and queen d2 check here, winning his dark square bishop, and his dark square bishop is a key defender, so that looks very attractive. If I go queen d2, is that anything? He takes here, bishop h6 check, king there, king back to g8. I mean, there may well even be attacking things there, but I've given up a whole rook. I don't think I want to do that. I think this move looks good to me. A little tactic, and of course, when you play these highly complex positions, you have to be aware for all the forcing moves, checks, captures, forcing moves. This move is a forcing move because it's a check, and the idea is if he takes it, I'm going to get rid of his dark square bishop, and his dark square bishop is normally a very good defensive piece of his king, but he has got two pawns here, so who knows if this is good, or good enough for compensation or not. Should I have played this move d6 or should I have not played d6? That's the other question, and I don't know the answer to that. I think if I played this again, I probably wouldn't play d6. Okay, now I have to check here. This is pretty much forced. I have to win my bishop back, clearly. I don't know why he's thinking here. It's a bit strange that he is thinking. King g7 is the only move here. Again, I'm not going to accuse anyone of cheating, but I'm a bit paranoid. I'm a bit paranoid after some of my previous things. I'm actually going to play my friend Simon Ansell. This is why I try to play people I know, because the chances of them cheating is not there. But why would you be thinking in this position? I mean, you've only got one move. Everything else runs into queen g5 checkmate. Your only move is king g7, so surely you'd be playing that like straight away. Oh, the paranoia in my mind is building now. Where's my cheat alarm? I'm not going to say it. I haven't got any proof, but I just said it, didn't I? Anyway, let's just look. Even if I lose, it doesn't matter, because the point is, I'm showing the way I'm thinking, the way you should be thinking when you're playing, and the main sort of ideas of GM thinking. Okay, so he's gone f6, and now castling is my obvious first fault. Knight g5 is my second intention, trying to get the knight in here, but then maybe knight e5. No, I mean, it's got to be castling. Let's get all my pieces into the game. So I am now 2 pawns down. What have I got in compensation? I've got a major pawn. He has some weak squares. F6 is weak as well. He has bad development. Is it worth 2 pawns? I don't know. I can't answer that, and only a computer could answer that. Maybe it's doubtful it's worth 2 pawns, but you know, it human versus human. This is a very you know, I think a very interesting position to play. I mean, okay, so I mean, my main idea is now I've got to now start. Now I've finished my development. Now I've got my king castled. Now I've finished all these things. My main idea is obviously now to start creating threats, put more pressure on him. So how am I going to do that? Well, knight g5 trying to come into e6 is one idea. I've got to maximize the potential of all my pieces. My bishop can now float to c4, which is a very nice open diagonal, and that would support a knight coming in. My bishop may also even come into e6, trying to, you know, annoy that knight when f6 would be weak. Another idea is to get my last piece into the game, get this rook into the game. My opponent's played a clever move there. If knight g5, he's going to go knight to d4 here. So that looks like a very good move to me. Another idea, maybe I don't want to go rook to d1 too soon, because that rook may want to enter into the e7 square. I feel like now my bishop should be moving. Maybe something with bishop b5. Maybe I want to swap this bishop for the knight there. Maybe this is what I should be trying to do. Swap my bishop for the knight. Bishop c4. I'm not sure how I'm going to continue that. Rook b1. I don't know. I'm not going to swap queens off anyway. I feel instinctively that my rook really wants to be coming into this square. But something like bishop b5, and then he just goes rook e8. Rook e8. You know, I'm kind of wondering if this is enough now. What I'm doing here. I mean, is rook d1 and knight g5 even better? And if he comes in, can I sacrifice there? Something like that. I really need to find the right plan here. I'm going to have no compensation. Bishop c4, knight to e5. I can take there then. That could be very interesting. Takes rook there. That's interesting. So let's have a look. Bishop here, there, takes. Rook takes here, knight takes c4. And then do I have some amazing tactical possibilities? I can't see it there. Maybe I should put my bishop on c4 and then on d5. That's a nice square for my bishop. Then I keep all my options open. Okay, let's go for this one. Let's go for this one. When it looks kind of wrong on b5, because my bishop wants to sort of, you know, I need to get it on this diagonal. And I think on d5 is a good square anyway, when I can pressurize both diagonals. So yeah, let's do this. And another reason I felt like I should be moving my bishop, I'm moving quite instinctively, is to get my rook, in some cases, to this position. Okay, so he's just moved his rook here. Very logical move. And you know, I don't know. I mean, is this really just nothing? Do I put my bishop here now, try to keep some bind on the position, and then, you know, he's going to get his knight here. Do I go rook here, and then knight e5 takes, and again, well, I think my bishop should be coming here probably. But hello, Charlie. Are you going to come up here? Hi, Charlie. Charlie's coming and joining the fun. He feels that do you think I got enough compensation here? Maybe not, Charlie. Maybe not. Come on, up you come. Come on, Charlie. Your fans want to see you. You coming up? Come on. Well, hopefully Charlie will join us. I need a bit of inspiration here. So yeah, because I'm kind of lacking now. His knights defend everything, and when he gets this knight to the center, that's an annoying move. Okay, well, let's put my bishop on d5, and just see if this is gonna keep him a little bit tied down. Maybe we'll have a look at this, I think, with a computer afterwards. That's one thing I'll do new today. I'll put it on computer analysis afterwards, and we can see how his moves are and also how my moves are, if I can work out how to do that. You know what I'm like with computers. Okay, so the knights come here. Now that has loosened that square. Is there any way I can take advantage of that fact? Well, bishop takes here, queen takes. Do I have any tactical ideas there? It's a move to... I can't go queen takes there. If I move my knight, he just takes here. Do I have bishop f7 here? Bishop f7. King takes, knight g5 check. That would be good, I'm sure. King here, queen takes here. Rook here, knight here. That looks very dangerous for him. Bishop f7, but he just moves his rook here then, doesn't he? Rook to that square. And I don't have a good follow-up. Is it time to bring my rook to d1? I think so. I think I'm going to bring my last piece into the game now, because now I have... Hello, Charlie. Hello. Are you going to make things even more difficult for me? Let's move the headphones. Say hello. Charlie's bum. Charlie's here. The star is here. The star of the show. Hello, Charlie. What do you think, hey? Okay, right. Okay, going on with the game. Oh, Charlie, hello. You're going to drop down there. There's a good cat. So, right, I really need to get some threats going. I mean, my play looks dubious, I have to say now. I have to move if I move my knight, he comes in here. Is it time to take on this? I think I have to get rid of the bishop, because that knight was always coming to d4. So I'm going to get rid of that knight, because if he takes with the queen now, then I have ideas with knight g5. I've got to try to get into this square here. Hello, Charlie. Okay, knight g5 now. Very tempting move, isn't it? I've got to do something big over on that area. Where do I move this knight? Knight g5. Very tempting move. Any other ideas? Well, is he going to go knight d7 and just try to defend everything there? Is there no tactical ideas for me in that position? Knight g5, knight d7. Is he just defending everything there? I mean, it's possible that he is. I think I have to go for this anyway. I think I have to play this. It's the only way to try to get, you know, some attack. Knight d5 would be a mistake. I just go rook takes d5. Knight d7 is clearly the best way to defend in this position. Knight d7. And then I need to think of ways to keep the pressure up. I thought I had queen f. Okay, he's found the best move yet again. Bloody annoying. Now, the thing, he's going to go rook here and maybe kick that knight away as well. That's another annoyance. Can I try to go queen here and try to come in like this? Queen here. And if he takes, is there anything with a check here? Rook here, check. King h8, queen here, check. It all looks like it's not going to be enough. Well, I've got queen h3. That keeps my attacking chances up. Queen here is looking like a good shot, but even then c4, it blocks out my queen, doesn't it? And yeah, I'm not finding enough compensation in this position. Okay, let's try queen to b3. We'll try this one, trying to sneak in, trying to take advantage of the light squares. And I'm more interested afterwards, you know, I'm not really caring about my opponent's defensive play. I'm more interested to see where I could have improved my play. And this is something you should all do with your own games. I mean, I am highly suspicious, I must admit, of my opponent, who is, you know, playing, it seems, very well and very good defensive moves when he's had many chances to go wrong here. You know, we'll check it with the computer afterwards. Hello, Charlie. You coming to bite my hand now? Unless I give you, look at the camera over here. Hello, hello. You feeling sorry for me? Hello. Say hello to the camera. Let's get you on the camera. Hello, Charlie. Hello. There you are, Charlie. There you go. You got it. You said hello to the camera. Yes, you did. Okay. You're causing all sorts of havoc. So again, he's played the one move which I was fearful of. He's playing incredibly strong for someone to be interested in. I mean, one thing I've changed my settings to only play premium members as well. When I thought there wouldn't be any chance of cheating, but I don't know. Okay, I mean, we'll see. Maybe he's just a very good player. Okay, so queen here. We'll keep fighting. Taking here then. And I don't know where my compensation will be. Do I have any crazy rook f7? King takes queen f7 check. Should we just go crazy like that? Let's do that for a laugh, shall we? Well, we should calculate. Queen here takes, rook f7 takes, queen takes h7 check, king here. And is he surviving? Queen takes here, knight to f6. So I've given up a lot of pieces there. Doesn't seem to work, does it? It's too many pieces. Other ideas in this position. Queen here takes queen here check, knight to e5. What about that position? Are you going to try to attack my hand now? Are you going to make things even more difficult? Thanks, Charlie. Okay, let's go for that one. That looks like maybe the best shot I have. Takes queen here check, but maybe he just goes king to g8 there. This is probably just a load of rubbish, actually. Taking queen c3 check, king g8. I thought he had to block the check for some reason, but of course he doesn't. And well, I mean, maybe I should. I mean, my position was bad anyway, so you know, I'm kind of getting a little bit desperate here in this thing. But I'm more interested to see what the computer says. Annoying, this game. I think in future I'm going to play people I know. But let's see. So okay, well I'll throw a check in, see if I can keep a little bit things. I would also like to say it's the last day today of this 50% sale on the GingerGM Method 2. So, you know, if you want to get this 15-hour course for half price, today is your last chance to do that. So go over there and, you know, go to gingergm.com. I'll put description and a link below. Your last chance to get this at 50% off. Now, my opponent's played king to g8. And well, my attack's extinguished. One problem, of course, is when you're attacking player, you know, think games like this can happen, and this actually looks pretty pathetic play from me, and it is. I went a little bit over the top. I didn't play the best attacking moves. You really need to spend so much more energy when you're playing in this fashion than you do if you're playing a positional way. So I'd rather have had another 15 minutes to find the right plan than play in the way that I've done here. So a little bit of a disappointing game. I'm actually going to resign that game, and we'll see if we can now get it up on computer analysis. Okay, that's good. So, well, let's see what the computer says, which is going to be more interesting. And I'm just going to now adjust this board so you can all see the computer analysis as well. And we'll see what the computer thinks. So let's bring that up. I might have to sacrifice my face. That's okay. Well, sacrifice half the board. I haven't done this before like this. Okay, I'll move my face over there so you can see a bit of me. And let's go on. How do we do this? Should we go, what, self-analysis? Let's do that, self-analysis, so we can see the thing up here. Okay, well, let's run through it. So I still think I've got to remember, I've got to look at this in more detail. I mean, one thing I should not be doing really is playing such a sharp opening as this without really knowing it. I mean, a good rule is if you're going to play a sharp, complex opening, then you've got to know it in more detail than other things. You know, it depends. You know, if you're playing a King's Gambit, you've got to really study it more than if you play a normal maneuvering game like the Italian. If you're going to play the line I did here, you really probably, this is when the computer analysis can really come in helpful. So let's have a look. So knight c3, and we'll just go down the line. e4 was played for me, and now g6, and this idea that was mentioned to me a couple of weeks ago in Reykjavik by Grandmaster Torbjörn Hansen, f4. And this is a move that theory does kind of frown upon, this idea of f4 and e5. It's not played, but Torbjörn's idea, if I remember correctly, is not bishop to b5 check, which is the main move here, but instead e5. And e5 forces this next line. Well, we can see my opponent can take on e5, but I'm pretty sure theoretically, as we're going to see, it's now changing its mind. This is meant to be a bit better for white. I think the line goes, if I'm not mistaken, that if he takes here and goes, let's say, knight to d7, we have some e6 move here. But I also think Torbjörn mentioned there was a knight f3 move here and just go for compensation that way, but we can see the computer is now thinking that e6 is better for white. So that's why my opponent played knight to d7, and this is the main move, and now knight to e4, and knight to b5 is the same idea. If my opponent castles here, then I'm assuming I can simply play knight takes d6, and my pawns here become sort of a nasty wall which he can't break through. He can't get his pieces into the game because my pawns are taking over. So he has to take here. So this is all pretty much forced. And now this check is the whole point of the variation. Misplaces king. King to e7. and now I have to do something with my knight, and this position here, the key moment. Now I'm wondering if Torbjorn's idea was to go f5 first here. Well, no, knight to f3 is looking like the computer's main line, so let's stick with that. And you know, one time when I do use computers myself is, you know, in these incredibly sharp positions, when you're playing these lines, it is good to get a second opinion from a computer, because the computer will, you know, it will think of ideas that humans don't think of. So knight to f3 is the move. Now the main theoretical move here is rook to e8. Rook to e8 is meant to be the refutation of this line, and already I'm getting a little bit suspicious that my opponent has played the top computer move, because I'm sure pawn takes pawn, okay, is not the main move. And the idea that Torbjorn told me is rook to e8, and I'm pretty convinced, if my memory is still there, that f5 is a new idea which promises white some very interesting play. And the idea is to keep the e file closed, keep your d pawn here, and if black ever takes on f5, you have this amazing idea, knight to h4, trying to come in here. And they're very fascinating, exciting positions. So I'll remember this one for the future. Instead, pawn takes e4 was played. And now I've maybe played the wrong move, d6. You know, I was humming and hawing here. And I kind of regret playing this afterwards. Well, the computer's given queen e2 and bishop takes f4. But what about bishop takes f4 straight away? This is a move I wanted to play as well. Maybe it comes to a similar thing. The computer likes black's positions, but I think in a practical sense, I mean, this is probably the move before this is probably the key position. Rook to e8 was what I was looking at. And now I was going to go bishop e2 and try to castle and then start my attack like this. Let's say king to f8. Castle's kingside. I'm only one pawn down here. I've got knight to g4 coming, this kind of idea. The computer says I'm doing very badly here. Do I believe the computer? Well, it's changing its assessment. I don't think it's as bad as the computer says, this position. I mean, even if I go queen d2 and bring my rook in the game and just play bishop h6, I would say long-term compensation. One thing you've got to do when you're analysing with the computer, you've got to take a stand sometimes as well. And remember, in a real game, you're playing against another human. So things are going to be different. But this, okay, maybe the computer is surviving here because he's got his king to this position. So what should I play after pawn takes f4? Well, the other suggestion is to maybe play queen e2 check here and then try to take here with the bishop so his king goes to a worse place. If king d8, I've got knight g5 ideas and knight takes here. Let's have a look. Let's just check. Rook to e8 would be the move that I'm obviously most scared about. Knight takes here, king here, bishop takes f4 check. That's a nice and attractive variation. King b6 and now just bishop to e3 with a winning structure. So that looks okay. So actually this check might be the move to play. And again, this just shows you how how important it is to know your theory when you're playing these sharp lines. Now king here, and he can't get his rook in the game. And now I take on f4. This is looking like the way to play. Bishop takes f4. And I can castle queenside here. And eventually I've even got this check here. I'm liking the look of this. The computer gives it as an advantage to black, as you can see right at the top of the screen. So this number here is what to keep an eye on. If you've never used a computer before, if it's a minus number, it thinks that black's better. But it generally, when you sacrifice the pawn, it's going to always think that anyway. You've got to go with your own instinct here. This is Stockfish, the world champion at chess. But this is the kind of position I'd certainly now, let's say I'm trying to improve my chess, I'd go away from this. And this position, or more importantly, the position after pawn takes f4, which is not, I think, the theoretical main move. So it's surprising my opponent played that. This position is something I'd study for an hour or two with computers and with my own thoughts before I could come to a conclusion of whether this line is worth playing for white. Let's have a look at what happened. Well, I went d6 check. This looks like a very human move because my opponent plays king to f8. And now, again, maybe bishop takes f4. Yeah, bishop takes f4. I like. Why not? Let's get the bishop in. And again, bishop takes b2 is, well, it's the computer's top choice, as we see. It grabs a pawn, and around here, this is where I start drifting. If I'm going to prove compensation, I really need to play a bit more energy. Now, it still thinks my bishop e2 move is not so bad, but it gives rook to b1 as the main move. But let's have a look. Let's just compare the moves. Bishop e2, and my opponent now played king to g7. And let's just leave it. Okay, the computer's top move again. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I'm really surprised that a human would play king to g7 here when there's so many other moves. There's knight to c6. There's knight to c6 to d4. There's bishop to c3 check. There's a number of moves here. I'm very surprised by this king g7. I mean, let's compare all the moves in the game. I mean, how annoying is it when people do bloody cheat? I'm not saying my opponent is cheating yet, but it's looking suspicious. I mean, okay, let's say he's not cheating, but why do people do it? They don't learn anything from doing it. Now it's changing to knight c6. Actually, it's already all right. But okay, let's go. King to g7, and now maybe swapping off dark square bishops was not the right plan. I think I should have just castled. I'm always happy if he takes on a1, because even though I'm a lot of material down, his dart squares now, they seem very weak to me. I mean, it still gives it as an advantage to black, but it's going down quickly. I mean, I should have castled here. Why exchange dark square bishops yet? This I think even the way, you know, this has played out, had I played this, you can see, even though black is 2 pawns up, it's only giving a very small advantage. So I'm kind of thinking this is probably absolutely the way I played it in the game. You know, it is, my instinct was actually correct here. D6 might be a line which is well worth considering. And, you know, this, you know, look how it's changing. It's changing its assessment all the time. But this is my main mistake. Bishop h6 was a bit too flash. The idea of which, of course, is to win his dark square bishop. But I didn't need to do that. I should have kept the pressure. My bishop on f4 was okay. And after I do win this, well, again, I just didn't seem to get enough compensation. f6, computer's top move. Castling, I kind of thought instinctively this should be enough compensation, but my opponent defends perfectly. Again, the computer top move, knight to c6. My next move didn't seem to get anywhere. Maybe it's still compensation. Okay, well, the computer gives bishop to c4. Let's have a look. And now rook to e8 is the move my opponent played. Rook to e8, surprise, surprise, computer's top move. And now, well, because my opponent has these ideas of his knights coming into these squares, I don't think this is, you know, my compensation is lacking. He's actually controlling the dark squares. I should have played rook to e1 and continued as such when there may have just been about okay. Bishop to d5. This didn't seem to be this didn't seem to do much. I was trying to stop his knight here from moving, but again, computer's top move was played, knight to b6, and now, well, my bishop doesn't really have any good squares, so rook d1 looks normal, and queen d7 blocking my pawn. Again, not a move queen d7 I think all humans would consider. I think most humans would consider just getting rid of that bishop, but again, top computer move. This is why I get a bit sick of playing these 15-minute games against people I don't know. I'd rather play people I know and trust. And this is why my rating remains so low on this. Let's hope this guy gets investigated and hopefully kicked off chess.com if he has had a number of games like this. You know, one game, okay, I'm not going to be too suspicious, but if he's had a number of games like this, he should be kicked off. The good thing about chess.com is their cheat detection is absolutely brilliant. I mean, like I've said many times before, you can't blame them for cheats, can you? That's like saying, you know, like I said before, blaming the prison for the prisoners in there. You know, you can't blame chess.com for that. It's the cheats you have to blame in general. Again, maybe not enough evidence for me to say that, but, well, hey-ho, I kind of did, didn't I? So I took on c6, top computer move. I tried knight g5, trying to unleash some tactics against this. Again, maybe a lesser player would not defend well here because there's only one defensive move played. I'm really groveling now. I don't have enough compensation. I tried queen b3. This is still very tricky. Again, I think taking on g5 is a move that a lot of humans would play when my idea was to go rook to f7 check, And after rook to f7 check, if king h8, there's this sneaky little move, which even though it's not, well, is this entirely clear? I thought this was probably winning for me, and indeed it is. But even this is quite hard to see. My opponent plays the top computer move, c4. Surprise, bloody surprise. Give me his neck. And now queen to h3. Okay, queen to c3 is forced, but as you can see, it's game over. And now he just takes my knight. And after the check, let's guess, does he play the top computer move? He does indeed, to finish the game off. So anyway, interesting opening there. Some interesting moments. Had I known I was playing a computer, I wouldn't have played so tactically. You just can't beat computers in tactical positions. It's impossible. Against another human, yes, you can. But not against a human. Now, my one mistake, actually, looking at the game, I actually played all right. I mean, this whole idea didn't seem too bad. But my main mistake was actually swapping off dark square bishops here. Instinctively, I thought that this would help me. But in actual fact, his bishop is not coming back to g7 to defend, and it would have made a lot more sense here had I castled. Maybe this is making the whole opening very interesting. I mean, let's just have a look at this line where he takes on a1 again. Well, if he does this, I'm an exchange and 2 pawns down, but he's got very bad development, and all my pieces are now coming to life. f6 looks forced, and now after f6, do I now, because I have full development, can I now play knight to g5, bishop to c4, and start bringing my bits in? Well, a position I need to investigate more if I'm going to play this opening again. A pity that my opponent seems like a bit of a cheat there. Dare I say it? Maybe I'm wrong. If I am, I'll take my words back. Maybe I'm just bloody paranoid nowadays. That's the other possibility. In future, I think I'm going to play people that I know are not going to cheat. So other title players would probably get a better experience that way. I'll put this video up anyway. Bit disappointing, of course. I should mention last time, today is the last day where my last teaching material, the GingerGM Method 2, is running at 50% off. So this is your last chance to get this at 50% off. I'll put a link to the description to where you can buy that from in the description. So just click on the description below the video to support me and to hopefully revolutionize your chess and improve your own chess. Now I'm going to go and kick some doors because I'm a bit sick of that game. It had such promise. That game would be so fascinating against another human. As you can see, fascinating opening. At least I've given you an idea there to play against the Benoni. And I only really made that one mistake, didn't I, it seems, of bishop h6 check. So it wasn't a terrible game, even though I lost in 27 moves. Okay, thank you very much for watching. And